What's up, Go enthusiasts? I just got back from the Chicago Open 2024. It was so much fun. This tournament was awesome. The organization, they were shorthanded, but they pulled all the slack, they pulled all their weight, and they made everything much more on time than I thought it would be, much more convenient, much more fun, even than I imagined. A really, really great experience. I'm here to recap my games from day one. I can show some photos of the dinner and the the lifestyle, the slice of life. But the most important thing, of course, about a Go tournament is the Go. And we started on Saturday. We had 3 games on Saturday and 3 games on Sunday. So I'm going to review the first 3 games I played in this tournament today. My first matchup was against Chris Kim, who's actually a good friend of mine. And we'd played before a few times in previous Go Congress or like online. And in general, I thought that I should be able to win. I thought that I'm a slightly stronger player. And I was actually going into this tournament with a particular mindset. I knew that I would be likely to make a review of all my games and to put them on YouTube. So I wanted to make these games as educational as possible for you, the viewers. And I also wanted to play well, of course. But what I was thinking to myself is that in each of these games, I'm going to treat it as if I were giving a teaching game, but giving a teaching game to someone who I know to be very good at the game, who's basically better than me. And so each of these games, I was thinking like, okay, I'm going to play sort of testing moves, ask them questions, and expect them to find the right answers all the time, but to try to punish them when I think that they don't find the right answer, and try to punish them conceptually more than just tactically. So here, we start actually with a really interesting sort of corner and side variation. This 2-space high, normally black wants to get the left side when they play like that, because the black stones are very high towards the left side, and they could build a big territory if they got some extra stones there. So I took the left side directly, and that puts black under pressure that I can invade their corner. So he chose to defend the corner like this. But this is a little bit passive. You can think that the F4 stone is like a little too slow, misplaced. If black just had a small knight's enclosure, that would be fine and good. But a small knight's enclosure and then another stone right there is like a little too much, right? So what do you do, conceptually, when your opponent has too much strength somewhere? You give them more strength. You attach. And yeah, black fought back against me, I think very reasonably here. Because if he would continue to add stones into his corner, it would just be too strong and too small, and I would have control over the rest of the board in a nice way. So it made a lot of sense to pincer, and I haned. He extends to make sure I can't just save myself easily in the corner, and I jumped like this. Actually, this tournament was in 25 minutes main time plus 10 seconds Fisher, so increment. So every time that you play a move, you'd get 10 more seconds on your clock, and it would be the opponent's turn. And if you ran out of time, you lose. It's just over. So I was really trying not to get too low on time throughout the tournament, because if I play on 10-second blitz, I know from experience I don't do that well. So instead of trying to play the perfect moves throughout the opening and the middle game, and then to rely on 10-second blitz for my endgame, I tried to make sure I left myself some time, so that, especially as I enter endgame, I struggle a lot in that very late middle game, early endgame stage. I wanted to be able to spend a lot of time in that stage to make sure that I read everything correctly and play the game properly. So this move I had played very, very fast. I didn't really think about it very much at all. And my opponent, Chris, he actually chose to spend some time here and thought for a while and played this. And in that time, I had realized that this actually punishes my jump a little bit, because what it does is it leaves weight with these 2 cuts. The cut here and the cut here. Those 2 cuts can be combined very nicely. And it actually... it sort of puts me under some pressure that I can't attack, I can't easily defend. By jumping here in the first place, I left myself in a position where I could be sort of squeezed and harassed in the ensuing fight. So I would rather have played the diagonal. If I thought for a while, I probably would have played the diagonal than the jump. But in the game, we just played like this here, and I'd played diagonal outwards, and I was basically thinking, I'm not that committed to attacking anything that black is playing here. So I didn't want to push into my own stone on the top side. A lot of people, when they save a group like this, their habit is to push and jump and just get out as far as they can. But in this case, my topside stone becomes much hurt. So I chose the just diagonal, and Chris decided to attack that stone on the top side anyway. You can see that now it's nicer to have my stone, instead of pushing a diagonal away, and to control the center a bit more. And here I actually played my first good sequence of the tournament. I played this peep, which I think is a really good move. It's harassing him about exactly how he can use my 2 cuts here. I knew that those should be his power, but how exactly to take care of them after I play this peep is not easy, because when he connects like this, that gives me now the timing to play the Tiger's Mouth. And this becomes a good shape for white pretty obviously, as normally the downside to this Tiger's Mouth is that black has a potential peep and can assist his own shape. But since I already exchanged this peep, that peep is a double empty triangle. It's not useful at all for black. And so that was the point of my peep on the outside, was to make this next vital point that was about to allow him into a very awkward shape. And already white is better, actually. This is already a successful fight for white, and black chose to attach here to try to make some counterattack, to get some potential to swing the fight back in his favor. I could just push though. And so he was relying on this move in Sente. I actually gave him this move in Sente. The AI says I shouldn't have. This is my one significant mistake so far, to play here. But the trading after, instead of this, the AI was suggesting I play here, allow him to capture, connect like this, and then allow him to surround me. I have some interesting fight going on now. I have to figure out how to handle my group and his group in the corner and all the other things all at once. That was more complicated than this way. Here I was quite happy to just use his 2 cuts again. So just like before, when I had jumped, I had these 2 cuts, the second line and the fourth line cut that he could have used directly. Now I'm using his 2 cuts in the corner. And whenever the weaknesses combine like that, it tends to lead to some over control. And at this point in time, I actually was being very sharp still, and just entering the tournament here, I was feeling really good on the first day, and I had read this whole sequence. He has this way to capture my 2 stones, but I had foreseen that when I had cut and extended here, and I saw this whole variation out where I was going to get this squeeze, and black can capture the top side. White's influence is just way too good in this variation. White is already completely winning, because the black stones in the corner, basically the C1 stone is totally wasted, so the territory is really not that much there. It's only maybe 10, 12 points or something. And the influence that I have allows me to start an attack and to control the left side here. I just played a big move on the left side. And from here, honestly, the game was very difficult for black to make a comeback in. He found this cut, which made some more complications. If I had played a Hane on the top side here, the AI would have been happier with me, but I think my game would have been less easy to control. I just extended a bunch. And instead of blocking on the left side, I just pushed in the center to take the center control here. I was just trying to establish the good shapes everywhere and to keep my control flowing throughout the board. Yeah, black tried to cut and start a fight. It made a lot of sense here. But the premise that I had was, okay, he's going to try to start fights against me, so I'm just going to be thick everywhere, and while I'm thick, I'll make sure that I can't be punished with my own weaknesses. So my group on the left side, my group on the top side, I made sure none of them were surroundable. My group on the left side here, the 1 stone is surroundable, but it's sacrificable, so that's okay. As long as he can't surround anything, cut anything, and attack anything, I'm just completely winning in this game. And I knew that, so I just pushed a bunch of times. I made sure to run out, played very simply. At this stage of the game, I knew that the Hane here is the vital point, so I just took that vital point to be able to split through and run out with my other group as well. It's much more effective than if I had just continued to run out directly here. Then when black can play a move to start to surround my left side, it's going to be difficult for me to take control of the game from here. So it's very important to take this. And then with that little bit of control, that Hane, I knew that I had an attack now on the left side, so I surrounded it with this diagonal move. When I Hane'd here, he tried to fix some fancy sequences by playing like this, so to save his group or to be able to cut me on the bottom left. But he should have just cut me. I didn't really have anything special and fancy sequences lined up, and I managed to come back to save over here. So here, once again, I gained a big advantage, even though he can Atari this whole way, and eventually save his group. I have a lot of power pointing towards his bottom left corner now, and he only has a couple points saving his black group. You can see, basically, if you count black's territory, that there's nothing to be had, and this game is pretty much over up to here. So I just kept fighting in the simplest ways that I could, made sure that I was out with the left group, made sure I just made a solid capture of those stones in the center. That's obviously enough territory already, just like that. He played this approaching move, and I have a motto that I've said recently, or I don't know if you've heard of it, but whenever someone is building up a territory from a side towards the center, they still have a chance to win the game. That's my motto. That's my theory. So when he played this move, I realized that, like, okay, well, if he can make something out of this center that's like significantly bigger than it was supposed to be, maybe he has a shot. Maybe if I like am scared of that and I let him break into my area and start attacking me, maybe he has a shot that way as well. So what I did is I just tried to say, okay, I'm going to limit this. I'm not going to let him like attack me too hard. I'm just going to limit it to what it should be fairly, right? So allow him just to take the right side with the stones like actually being spent to take it. And so he didn't get to like skip finishing off the territory in any way. He had to invest some stones to take that. So I said, okay, that's good enough. And I went on the attack over here. He tried to make some crosscut, some interesting fight here. Yeah, interestingly, I didn't know what black was supposed to do here, because I thought I could capture either the 2 stones or the 1 stone. The AI suggested a variation, which I found really interesting, which is that black should sacrifice those 2 stones. Normally, such a variation is horrendous, and it's not, you know, not considerable. But in this case, it actually makes a lot of sense, because white got extremely strong, but amusingly is like right next to white's extremely strong wall. So it doesn't like do anything to be extremely strong there, when I literally had a wall that was like right there. So that was an interesting sacrifice variation, definitely. Could have been good, but it wouldn't have been good enough, I think, to win the game. This game was pretty cleanly controlled. I knew at this point that the correct move, the blue move the AI would want me to play, is this one, but I just played here to be more stable, so that the game becomes very clear that I've captured the stones in the center and I have enough territory without doing anything special. There was a little bit of fighting left in the top side, but when I played here, black resigned. So I was really happy with this game. I'm going to show you the AI graph. Of course, I didn't see the AI graph during the game, but I also actually didn't see it after the game. I didn't bring any computer capable of running AI like this to the tournament, and just tried to do it, wing it myself, which I think helped a lot to have more trust in my play. But I may be bringing a computer to the next tournament I play. We'll see. Anyway, you can see the graph was quite clean for white here, and I was very happy with myself heading into round 2. In round 2, I played against Boe. I'd never met him or even heard of him before, but he's a really nice guy and a very strong player as well. On day 2, he went 3-0, defeating 2 Fox 9 Dan players to place in the top 6. But we played on day 1 here. Game 2 was in the morning. It was just before lunch, and I had barely had time to record the game that I had against Chris before I was back to starting this game. We played this opening. I'd actually practiced this opening a little bit just before the tournament. Not anything in particular, and not very deep, as you can see as I mess it up here, but I was blitzing this out pretty fast to try to give myself more time in the middle game and end game, just as it had been my plan on in game 1. It worked pretty well against Chris. I didn't get into any time trouble at all, even towards the end of that game. So this game continued. Yeah, this this extend is slightly incorrect. The rest of the opening is fine. Here, you could also choose to play something like this. White doesn't have a clean life yet, and black would have a better base. So this is a better way to play. But I'd extended here instead into the center, and then eaten the 2 stones closer. I think some people prefer to try to surround these stones properly when they are playing an attack like this. The diagonal is more intuitive for a lot of Q players in particular. This would commit to killing those stones, which is actually unnecessary here. As if you just play without committing to killing those stones, if white would try to save them, it's your benefit. The black player really wants white to try to save those stones. The fight is not going to end up with white in initiative, right? So instead of really pressing very hard to kill them properly, it's much better to press hard that your position will be good even if they die or if they don't die, either way. So this jump is just the biggest move locally in terms of controlling my own group on the right side, in terms of controlling the flow against his group on the right side. And the game just continues quite naturally. This was an interesting situation. I'd never really been pincered where the opponent has a 3-space low to high before, and I played, I think, pretty well here. I asked white whether he was going to Atari in the corner or just defend, and he chose to just defend. And from this, and a couple of the other decisions he'd made in the opening, I sort of got a sense of what kind of player Boe is. He seems to play quite stably, which is also how I tend to play. And that means that we're very unlikely to collapse sort of randomly. We're the kind of player, I think me and Boe have somewhat similar style like this, where if I'm going to lose a game, it's unlikely because, I just didn't like know about what I was doing. It's more like I'll choose something that I know I can do, but maybe isn't the best thing to do. And my opponent can punish me like that. So that's, you can see that style when I play this 2-space jump. Actually, black doesn't have to defend that group in the upper left. It's not really that fast to do so, to play this 2-space jump. But I thought, if I play this, then I'm going to be very easily able to handle that thing in the upper left, and then I can just go and fight harsher in these other areas. So basically, I'm trying to give myself more freedom and more stability, just like I feel that white does as he plays kick and jump. This is all very standard. I played 2-space and he played here. He tries to take some thin, like lots of territory shape on the left side, which of course has a problem that it can be leaned against. And so I kind of do that in a pretty interesting way. This jump, I think, is a great move. What it was doing, first of all, it takes away a base from white. So white should defend himself. He should add another stone to that group. That makes a lot of sense. But the other thing that it does is it sets up this attach and invasion to be significantly, significantly stronger. In the game, white only connected back and allowed me to hane. And you can sort of see that black shape is a little bit good here in the bottom left, it turns out. So could white have done anything more aggressive like this? It's going to be really hard because, of course, if I didn't have this jumping stone, white could try to link up to his group on the bottom. But in this situation, it can't connect. So that jump, as preparation, it made this invasion much stronger. The cut threat is much stronger as the 2 stones are much weaker. And so because of that, I got to make this good shape and defend my group on the bottom side really strongly. And I think that little bit of pressure made Boe lose control a little bit. And he played this move, which I suspect, immediately regretted when I answered on the top side. At least he regretted it after the game. He knew that this move is not good, that this exchange is not good. Because what this has done is it has sort of committed white to using the value of those 3 stones, which white was not supposed to be saving. And what black got in return is the top side. So this exchange makes the game much harder to play for white, as white's value is sort of intangible and black's value is very clear and obvious. So to make that make sense, Boe has to do some awkward stuff. He tried to lean and attach here, and he tried to somehow make this shape where he can save the 3 stones there. And this is really quite awkward for white, you can tell. However, I didn't really punish this optimally. I captured here, and he did this, and then without thinking for very much, I just answered and allowed him to answer here. I knew that this was already pretty good for black, but it wasn't the best that I could have done. This is one moment where Fisher timing sometimes gets you in trouble. At least it gets me in trouble. I knew that this position is not going to be that important, so I don't need to think that long. So I pretty much instantly played to save my 3 stones. But actually, if I were to cut here, then this Atari is double Atari, so he has to answer. And that already makes an obviously really powerful shape in the center. That could have been better. And another thing that I was thinking about after the game that I regretted was to not just extend here instead of capturing. This would hold together some pressure. So instead of capturing right away, now if white tries to connect like this, they're going to get in big trouble. Somehow getting surrounded and just super short on liberties. So capture and then allow white to connect. I thought this definitely makes a good shape. This shouldn't be bad, but while that's true, it wasn't exactly the most pressure that I could have put it on white either. And then I played this move. I was aware that this move is not standard, that the more normal thing to do would be to play here. And I was trying to show that I could still play there anyway, and that in the meantime, like, I was threatening, if white, instead of answering in the center here, which was smart, I think, of Boe, if he had blocked here, then this cut can really show how powerful the attack that I have against those weak stones can be. So here, even if I just go through and cut like this, white is in big trouble in such a variation. So Boe was forced to sort of answer here, and then I figured I could just attach later anyway at h3, which is true. It's how it works, but I think AI docked me a little bit for this. It had some plan with the other way. I don't think that it's a very significant error by black, and black still has control of the game from the initial problem that white had to save this group, and black got to take the top side in return. I now played another iron pillar. I felt quite strange, actually, because these iron pillars are bad shape. Do not do this at home, okay? These are bad shape, but in the way that I was trying to play educationally, I was like, you know what? Why not demonstrate? This iron pillar is one iron pillar that can work where you're intending to run to the center as much as possible, and this is another one. Basically, each iron pillar, if you play such a slow move, you have to have an idea of how you're going to play really fast next. And in this case, it's the cut. Over here, it's the cut. You have to have that kind of extreme punch for this level of stability to actually be able to put pressure on your opponent. And yeah, this was actually the blue move to pull back here. The best move according to AI, which I was quite happy when I saw after the tournament. And Boe played to defend the left side here. So obviously, my group on the left side is not 100% strong. His group on the left side could have been leaned on. So by playing here, he prevents me from playing some like common sequences where he's pushed down to the 3rd line, I get the 4th line, and then I could start some global attack. But it is the wrong direction. And I actually thought about this during the game. I was like, man, this move doesn't look right. If I were giving a teaching game to my student, how would I show them, oh, this is not right? Well, it's pretty clear. There's a weak group on the bottom side, and I threatened it just now with the iron pillar. Now, if I cut it, that's not really going to be effective enough because white can easily sacrifice some little part and then take care of the whole group anyway and get the compensation back from the left side that they just took. So you have to go for a stronger attack like this. And this put white under a lot of pressure. This sequence that I played here was quite sharp to ask him. This Tiger's Mouth that he played is a high-level move. It's a really respectable shape to choose. Many people would choose to play the bamboo instead. That's usually going to be incorrect because this one doesn't have nearly as much eye-shape potential. And the cuts that you think that you're saving by playing this bamboo are really not that important most of the time. Just this little like extra resource that you can get to later if you want. Usually it's not really a big deal to sort of minorly emphasize it. Not as much of a big deal as getting a half eye shape is. And in particular, this one also shortens the liberty of the outside black, which is also very important so that the cut is more powerful. But I played this peep, and it's a really annoying timing because even if white does cut me right now, he's not actually going to get initiative from that. He's just going to have some sort of vague resources. So he chose to just connect and bide his time. But then this connecting is actually really powerful. So it was a mistake to connect. He should have not answered this peep. He should have taken this cut and tried to use those resources to sort of like somehow combine. Black is going to get something from this attack, but maybe white can get away with a stable shape in the end. This way, white is in really, really big trouble. It's extremely difficult for white to get 2 eyes. And he starts playing these sort of bad exchanges because he realizes here, with the 2 space, with the assorted like strength that black had gotten in the center throughout the game so far, white is surrounded. White is surrounded and they can't make 2 eyes. So white, it felt like white is just going to die, right? It's really hard to not die, actually, with this kind of group. Which is quite strange. I may say that, and you may be thinking like, well, that's obvious. Whereas the group's eyes, at a high level, groups almost always save. So a group that's this big, just dying, is quite out of the ordinary. And although I had that feeling that it could die, I wasn't honestly planning on killing it at all. I didn't think that was the way that a teaching game should go from here. I thought these exchanges were actually very satisfying for me. What they did is they gave white some more options, some more resources, and this cut, and white has some things to target, but he can't quite use anything directly here. He just decided to say, I have these resources, I'm gonna connect to my stone on the bottom and somehow survive. So now if I go all in to attack him and he manages to save the group, then maybe he can reverse the game, as basically the only thing that I've gained at this moment is just my power that I have, my potential power against this white group. So I decided to transition that power into a more safely winning game. I tried to push here, so to forcefully make him defend his group again, to eliminate his resources against those 3 stones, but at the same time try to take my profit from this attack in the form of future attack against the white stones on the right side as well. And so he played this attach, I played this diagonal move. The AI says this is actually the move that lost the chance to kill. I could have really put him under more pressure of dying if I would play this Hane, which makes sense. I agree. I could try to attack him harder. When I do this, he played the correct move to play the table shape here. I peeped, and by making that exchange and connecting here, white managed to make 1 eye very clearly on the side like that. He has another half eye if he can make it on the right side, and he has an option to run. So white can definitely save his group. He will either run or make the 2 eyes. And so I gave up. I gave up on attacking, and I switched to attacking the right side. It doesn't mean that this is a bad result for me. I mean, the AI thinks so. I could have done better, but still globally I have complete control of this game as long as my attack on the right side goes fine. So I played Hane Connect here, and yeah, I was actually getting really stressed at this point. I had read this sequence out, and Boe was more correct in his judgment, more realistic in his judgment here by just connecting like this. This allows this allows black to live, and then white can live as well. So black manages to save those stones on the side in Sente. White gets a few points, and black is really comfortable to keep his power in the center, and I just continued to play an endgame from here. Yeah, I was panicking at this point over what would happen when white plays this kind of a ko. So I was really trying to figure it out, shaking my head, and Boe was like, "Why is this guy shaking his head?" He told me after the game, he was like, "Isn't this just so easy?" Yeah, to me it wasn't that obvious how I'm supposed to play the ko from here, but I do believe that it, like, objectively that is better for black when white plays the ko. The reason why, of course, black has this trick. They're going to push through, they're going to do this and have this cut. So white would need to win the ko to save this group, and black has at all times this attack against the white bottom side group as ko threats, that's a lot of ko threats. This white will not be able to save itself very easily anytime soon. And that's why, I mean, I planned that, but that's why Boe would choose to do this. I was worried that like my top side, my upper left would have some co-threats like left behind that I'd struggle with. Yeah. White knew what he was doing when he played like this. That was correct, but I still managed to win this endgame quite cleanly, and I actually had some chance to attack this group in the center as well. The whole white group, even though it connected, was not clearly safe. I played some harassing moves a little earlier than this. My game record isn't quite right, but Boe decided to not not review the game anymore from here because it was pretty much already won for black. So this was a really nice game, a really fun game, and I was very, very happy with myself that against a player who was really playing at a strong, you know, Fox 8 Dan, Fox 9 Dan level, I was still able to give them a teaching game in the way that I planned. I mean, not properly, not like an actual teaching game, but my thought process during the game was that level of clarity, and I felt really, really happy with my decisions in general throughout the game. I'll show the the AI graph here. So it starts climbing as I got this attack on the bottom side and the control over the top side, and then yeah, the late end game there has to do with the attack that I could have had on the top side. But I just made sure that I was always winning, and I eventually won the game by about 10 points. I was really happy with this game. And yeah, Boe was talking about that game over lunch with his friends, one of which I played in round 3. So Shi-Qian, my third round opponent, and Boe had chatted over lunch. They discovered my YouTube channel and found out I was Fox 9 Dan from there. I actually believe that gave me a small advantage in this game. Sort of intimidation factor, because there's lots of Fox 9 Dans who are really good at the game. Like Baduk Doctor, for example, is a Fox 9 Dan who's so good at Go that frankly he should be invincible to everybody at Fox 8 Dan and below. And my rank is the same as his. My skill is not. It's nowhere close to. I'm not even close to as good as Baduk Doctor, but the name, the word value of Fox 9 Dan somehow carries some weight. People can get afraid that it's just going to be an impossible game when you play against a Fox 9 Dan. Sometimes this just happens. And so I think that honestly, having that reputation as I played against Shi-Qian gave me some advantage. However, the opening did not go that well for me here. Yeah, I kind of wanted to fight. I had enjoyed creating these complicated situations in each of the games earlier in the day, and I had been reading generally pretty well and making lots of really good decisions. So I wanted to make these complicated fights in the early game, but she played very well as well. This is the best follow-up when you play the 2-space pincer to the low approach, and I actually didn't know the counter to this yet. I studied it since. I understand now what you're supposed to do is it's actually push and cut locally, so black should play here, and then I know about this fight now. I understand what to do. There's a very cool Tsuji when white plays here. You should play this empty triangle so that if white answers, then you can eat the 1 stone. Anyway, I didn't know about that yet, so I chose to invade the corner here, and we got to this position where I thought for a while. This is the first time that I really spent some time in the opening, because I realized this position could get quite dangerous if I choose the wrong thing to do right now. And then I promptly chose the wrong thing to do. I played this jump. I knew that she could play this jump here. This is exactly what I read, this whole variation up to here. And the problem is that black has no clear way to defend their group. There's no obvious thing to go after that is going to be successful if black can get it. And so I tried to double threat. Either I can run out, I can split the white shape and be not surrounded, or I can take some position on the side. And she played very accurately here, deciding, okay, then I'll let you take the side, and I got to split the shape. But now I had to answer, because if I would have played away, some other move. This clamp is very, very dangerous for black. I can't block, obviously, and if I come back like this, black doesn't obviously have enough space to live. And so I had to answer here. And the position should be good for white. You could just connect. So there's a bunch of ways that I could have done this better. I could have, for example, just not tried to save the stone from the start. I could have saved the stone in the corner or played on the top side or something. And once I go through this far, there's a couple more ways to play from here. But there was this one really spectacular Tsuji the AI showed me. I couldn't even imagine that there would be a Tsuji in this position. In this position, it looked to me like, okay, everything is basically settled. I have to push down, split the shape. She can split my shape, and then we get the variation. I thought it was forced. But black can play here. And this is brilliant. It just means, okay, you can link underneath and connect those two weak groups together. And yeah, so this is super successful for black if the variation goes like this. Although white gets this nice influence, the fact that black gets all the territory and saves both stones, it's gonna be much, much better than the game. So that move is now added to my dictionary. You can play a jump. You can play a knight's move. The main idea is that as long as white can't split, so in this situation white could split me, and that was her plan. She had a nice plan here. In this situation white could not split because you can see all the black stones are perfectly positioned to catch white if there's all these cuts. As long as I could connect my stones, that's another entirely valid way to try to play. But it didn't occur to me. I didn't think of doing that at this point. But fortunately for me, it seemed that Shichian was a similar style of player as Boe. He played this connect, which is the same kind of mistake as that Tiger's Mouth I had talked about in the game against Boe. The opening move that's a little bit too thick, a little bit too stable, and clearly intends to not collapse more than it intends to press me, that I have a difficult decision now. So I felt quite free to try to harass her top side. I played this attachment, similar to the one that I played in the game against Chris. I want white to answer, and then if white answers, then I get better power to save my group on the side. So similarly, she pincered. I found it kind of like deja vu that this had happened twice, but I actually planned for this, of course. And I played the blue move, which is attach again. It's kind of a fun sequence. It looks like dominoes, right? One domino line falling over, starting to be built on the top side here. The idea, of course, is that if I had played a Hane in some direction or something like that to punish her cornerstone, I wouldn't actually be able to make a living shape, and her wall there would be so effective at attacking me. So instead of committing to some kind of defense right in front of her perfect strength, much better to dodge away and sort of ask her, well, where do you want to allow me enough resources that I can actually save? And when I can actually save and like handle this in front of her wall, that's very successful. So she had a difficult decision here, how to defend. She chose to defend the corner, to emphasize on the corner. And so I decided to give that up by playing this Hane. And yeah, even here, even with that Hane, that's still not enough for me to feel confident to just save those two stones in front of this extreme wall. So I decided to sacrifice again, like this, which it may seem strange to just play a stone, sacrifice it, and then sacrifice the sacrifice as well. Like, but this is, in my opinion, the correct way to handle your opponent's situation. They're like Moyo, where they have an attack brewing, and you still want to get the value from that area, basically the value of white's weakness. In this variation, I've sort of transitioned her lack of control of the corner into a greater lack of control over his side, where I can actually fight, right, on the top side and near to my own stones. So yeah, it's a little bit my bad habit to just dodge away from these hard fights as soon as possible. In this situation, I think the AI suggested I could just Hane back after she Hanes, and then I could continue to fight in this corner like this. It's a slightly better way than to play like this. But this way is stable. I told you guys it's my style to be stable, right? To be stable and to try to take something that I can take and only lose if it wasn't big enough, right? So this is stable. I can clearly take this. When she blocks here, I play this move, and clearly I can either connect or fight out. So she chooses to stop me from fighting out, and I get to connect. And we have this variation. Um, and I wasn't sure exactly who to evaluate this as being good for, but I knew that like black wasn't losing horribly or anything like that. And because the initial left side had been good for white, maybe white is still a little bit better. But I was happy to play this move to sort of limit her outside so that she couldn't grow this into being something very intimidating. After I play this move, if she continues to just take the top side, it's going to be too small. So she played away here because if she plays like this, the problem is that this area, this may look really big when I box it out. But you can see the additional part that she's gaining when she plays this 7th line move is actually not that much more than what she already had. So by playing that large knights move, I sort of didn't give her enough space to be able to be confident to actually ask for a big enough territory with that influence. And so that's why she had to choose to play to some other area. Instead of building with this influence, she has to sort of leave it there and use it to fight instead, which is the theoretically correct thing to do, but it makes the game a bit harder in practice. So we played this variation again, and yeah, you can see when I play here that I had not looked at my game with AI yet, otherwise I would have pincered and played the variation differently. This is, again, a situation where this exact same Joseki follow-up would have been beautiful. I can take the right side and continue to attack, but I thought that this was the right way to do things, where I can make a pincer later. It's not that much worse, it's fine. And I played this move. This is a little bit, again, of harassment. I had seen her connect earlier, and I figured she was the type of player to want to play very stably. Objectively, what white should be able to do now is break my bottom side, but then there's this really awkward cut, and it doesn't quite work. I think that white has some sequence like this, according to the AI, and this is apparently going to be a fine fight for white, like white can break through and then handle the group. But this stuff is very scary, and so most players who like to play solid, who like to not collapse in their game, will defend something like this. So she chose to defend, and with that exchange, I sort of exploited her willingness to stay stable throughout the game to make sure that she doesn't collapse, and I gained a little bit when I exchanged like that, because I exactly played this stone in a situation where I knew her responses couldn't put my own stone back under pressure. So when I make this exchange, the black has grown, you can see it grew the bottom side territory to be significantly bigger, where she couldn't make any kind of leaning shoulder hit idea work as well, because obviously if I can get all this, it's going to be quite satisfying. And so that gives her a more difficult continuation. I mean, black is just bigger, so it's just better for me, but it's also harder for white to figure out how to deal with this kind of thing. And she chose to invade directly to the 4th line. This move is obviously not problematic by itself, but it gives her this really hard position afterwards when I just play this diagonal. She has to figure out how to save the group or the value somehow, how to extract the value of my sort of slightly uncontrolled area. You can see how I did it on the top side. What I did was I traded away, right? I made some fight, and then I asked her whether I would save in that slightly uncontrolled area. I had her defend, and then I traded, and I got the value out. I extracted the value out. That's exactly what she wanted to do here when she played this move. She was completely willing to sacrifice this 4th line stone if she would get some control over the center and be able to take the value out, right, and put it somewhere else. But I didn't want to let her do that, obviously. So she played this knight's move, expecting, okay, black can push and cut now, and then white would allow black to get the whole bottom side and just get some power against the black cuts, be able to continue the game. And I chose to instead play this kick. So this is aiming at either surrounding the whole thing, or if she plays like this, to play some cut. So if I can't surround the whole thing, then I'm going to cut it in a bigger way so that she can't easily transition the value out. I'm sort of pressuring her, you've got to handle something on the bottom side here. I give her some task to do. And it was really, really not easy to see how to do this task. When I review with AI later, it looked kind of easy, but during the game itself, we were both struggling to see what white was supposed to do here. So she chose to attach here, and I played Hane. I just want to pause and note something. This is the first time, I think, in my whole life of playing Go at least playing Go at a reasonably high level, that I've ever played Gomoku consecutively. Yeah, I played this move and then diagonal, 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 and diagonal. And I got 5 in a row, all in a row during the game. And so that made me a little happy. I was tempted to say Gomoku out loud. But I didn't because we were in a playing hall, and obviously there were other serious games going on nearby. But yeah, this has never happened to me before, that I got the 5 in a row, literally all in a row, and all the moves made sense. Like, they were all very logical moves, which were about to like win me the game, to be honest. And I played this pincering move, not just meekly answering on the side, but playing to ask her, hey, where's your base? You know, there's the base is very small that Wei has access to here. She tried to attach and Hane, and then she played this move, and she just had to give it up, and I got to kill the bottom side here. So black is of course leading here. Yeah, in the game I had actually read her method to save, which is like this and here, but I forgot it in review. But like this, there's gonna be some ko, I think. Yeah, there's a few ways to try to make it ko, but here is one. Probably the right variation. I don't know, my Sumego is not very good. I'm trying to improve my Sumego, guys. Bear with me. In the game, when she pushed here and I got to connect, then I both fixed my like connection issues on the right side pretty nicely, and I also got that chance to play M18 later, so she just doesn't have enough space left. So she chose to just try to get the most that she could from the outside, and try to cut off my stone in the center. So at this point in the game, I was very confident that I was leading, of course, because I killed the group on the bottom side, and she didn't extract the value in any way. She just got a few stones in the center. It's not a significant enough extraction to show that white is playable at all. So I just decided, all right, all I have to do is figure out how to reduce the center, like play one winning fight in the center, and then the game should be over. And so I read a variation where I extend here, and I thought I could just extend all the way back, and at this moment that I could connect my stones back. But I actually didn't realize that she could play connect, and I pushed through this way. This was too strong of play for me to expect at all here. And so this made it so that I had to save my group in the center. Now, of course, I realized that I probably should be able to save my group in the center. That's why I went for this variation anyway. I didn't just go all in saying I'm going to be able to connect. I knew that I can get some value in the center, get some area, and potentially link back on the right side here. But I did have enough time to think, but I wasn't really playing cleanly enough to call it the teaching game quality that I'd been playing my previous 2 games with. I played this block, which she can continue to just cut me, like so. And so I have to save in the center now, which is really uncomfortable, of course. And if I had just played here, I read this variation. I thought that I was going to be in trouble if it goes like this, but I could just Tiger's Mouth, and I missed Tiger's Mouth here, which is aiming at both cutting here and at cutting here and at the whole life and death weakness of the right side. So obviously if she connects, I can push and cut. That's going to be successful. I'll kill the right side. And if she plays here, then I can push and cut as well, and you can see that's forcing to the top side, and then when I play this Hana and connect, she's also going to die on the right side in this variation. So that was a much cleaner way to do things here. I could have made some counterattack on the right side. In the game, I thought I would have some counterattack, and then I realized that I did not. So I had to save in the center, which made this quite a bit scarier than it had to be, but it was always safe. I could always save this group in the center. She tried her very best to kill it, reducing the space at the last moment before I would live if I had gotten that space. And then I got the chance to push and peep here. Her connect is correct. And then originally here I had read this one, but after this attach, the only move is Hane here, and I was just like getting really confused when I was reading these variations. To be honest, I should have been able to read it out. But instead I went for this variation, which I read out correctly, that I could net here. Her only way to continue to try to kill me is to push and show that that's a false eye. But I could capture, which gives me liberties, and then I can use her cuts in the center. So I can cut, and Atari here. And I end up capturing her stones, of course. So she resigned at this moment, because if she captures like that, it's a connect and die. So obviously black is winning a lot. So here's the score graph of that game. You can see was in some real trouble in the beginning, and I didn't fight like perfectly on the top side, but once I came to my attacking position, my defending position in the center, I had complete control of the game. I ended up the day 3-0 with 2 other people, and I felt like I was in complete control of each of these games. There was no moment where I had a chance of losing towards the second half of any of these games, which made me really happy because my opponents were playing quite well, and I was still able to play exactly the way that I had hoped I'd be able to play. I hope you guys found these games educational as well. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Of course, I was just really, really happy to go eat dinner that night. Watch a lecture on Ko by Kim Ji-seok was really, really cool. Foreshadowing as well for my day 2 games, which are filled with Ko. Oh man, this was such a fun tournament, guys. I gotta give another shout out to Karl, who took the photos that you see of my opponents, and really, really awesome team the Chicago Open has to work with. Many, many thanks to them. Many thanks to everyone who showed up as well and said hi to me. That was so awesome to meet so many people who had seen my videos. I hope you guys make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell if you want to see day 2 recap coming out soon. Bye-bye.